Good evening. This is Harlem Network News, and I'm Terry Wisdom. And Harlem Network News is a media platform we started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. We are dedicated to the people being informed, the people being engaged, and call to action, okay, to really understand what's happening. I have the honor of having Brother Isaac Fergusson of WBAi, who has an amazing 2 shows on WBA, and I've had the honor to be. Three. Okay, he's gonna let us know. But it's an honor to be here with you. You're doing great work. People are listening. It was great for the collaboration of Harlem Network News being on pre the Democratic primary and post the Democratic primary. We also have our Democratic primary candidate, Dr. Selma Barthomew, on with us. And she was on Brother Isaac's show post-mayoral election. And we salute you for running that race. We salute you for coming on after that race. We salute you for not disappearing and continuing to do the work.
Yes.
Okay, because it's about the work. And so thank you so much. But we're going to dive right in because we are going to talk about the budget, the city council budget that was passed by the mayor and the city council this week for the, $1 billion budget, and what the breakdown of it is and how it's impactful. And Harlem Network News has got to do this because it's important. The budget happened, but we, the people, from our city council people or whatever, and it's our responsibility to hold them accountable, but it's their responsibility to also be accountable. So we know what's in the budget before it comes out, and we have something to say. It's not just after the fact, and that's what it is. So New York City is one of the richest, places in the world, and there is money, but there's extreme poverty and great wealth gaps here. The mean wealth gap for Blacks in New York State income, $19,000. The mean for whites, $270,000. Our comptroller has this on record. So budget, money, time for change. So I'm going to let you, Dr. Selma, speak first, because when we were on that forum, you began to speak about the budget. So if you could just weigh in. Yes. Thank you.
Well, first, thank you so much. Thank you so much, phenomenal woman Terry Wisdom, for having us and for making a space to have this discussion. I think that the budget piece is so important because, as you mentioned, it's $19,000 average income, right? And, historically, I call it revenue apartheid, and in particular, people of color are experiencing. We are highly taxed. We've got red light cameras every single where, but we don't see the impact in our community. We see the school to prison pipeline. I want people to know that the budget matters, especially as we talk about businesses in New York City, that historically for every dollar, Black businesses make less than half of a penny. Women, Black men, less than half of a penny, Hispanics. And so this question about where our money is going is critical. And the fact that we seem to not be able to have enough influence, right? Enough influence on our elected officials for them to now make decisions that fundamentally improve the quality of our lives. So I'm honored to talk about this $116 billion budget that New York City has as a result of taxes, as a result of, the parking tickets, as a result of, being able to generate that much revenue in one city. And so yet still we're not seeing the outcome. So I thank you. And I'm honored to have a chance to spend some time, and I sincerely appreciate Brother Fergusson from WBAi for making space as well for this important conversation.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure coming here and enjoying these discussions with yourself, Dr. Selma, and with Harlem Network News' CEO and founder, Terry Wisdom. And she couldn't be better named.
Yes, so true.
But about the budget now, to start with, I kind of shrugged when I received a copy of the budget and I saw the name, Best Ever Budget.
Oh,
That's too Trumpian. It
okay.
makes me feel
Whoa,
that
whoa, whoa.
it makes me feel like Eric Adams, Merrick Adams, truly loves Donald Trump or admires him because he likes to play these sort of media games like Trump does. Best Ever Budget, City of
Yes.
Yes. His housing program is
Yes.
the City of Yes. The best ever budget. So and then you look through it, or when it's like somebody saying, I'm the baddest. Well, if you're Muhammad Ali and you say you're the baddest, that's not too bad because seconds later, you're knocking somebody out and you're proving that you really are the baddest. But when you see the budget and then you realize that some of the money that's allocated is so questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, for example, you have $400 million to improve Fifth Avenue and make it a world-class pedestrian causeway. Well, we understand tourism is enormously important. But at a time when people are talking about unaffordability, when the people who live here are talking that they cannot afford rent, they cannot afford food is going up, people are jumping through the back of the buses because often or jumping the turnstiles, don't have the money to pay the fares. And you're thinking, well, no wonder the city responded to Zoran Mamdani in the way that they did, because he zeroed in on those things and stayed on those things, a more affordable city. And then you look at the budget 2 days later, and there's $400 million to improve Fifth Avenue.
And I think we have to say that out loud for people that they understand that the budget has allocated $400 million to restore and revitalize Fifth Avenue. Now, we know Fifth Avenue begins in Harlem, but that's not the Fifth Avenue that they're talking about, right? And so how did this, how is it that we're spending that is not small amount of money, people. That is $400 million that will now be going to businesses in order who owns those contracts, who's going to own the construction company, who's going to own the design, who's going to own the architecture. That money is not going to touch the African-American, the Black and Brown community. And so we literally has just given away $400 million of our tax money to revitalize Fifth Avenue. That is something that is so critical. So let me just make sure everybody heard that clearly.
Okay, and could you also, because I think it's very important, the Fifth Avenue thing, that's one. But what are some of the other
yes, but we're gonna get to that.
Yes, thank you.
Get into that, but
all right.
That stands out because we know that we have to keep improving the city or doing things for tourism purposes. But New York is already one of the biggest tourist cities in the world. People are coming here. I mean, Christmas time, you can't even get down Fifth Avenue. You can't even walk. There's so many people there because of the amount of people from all over the globe visiting Midtown Manhattan and the Fifth Avenue and the Times Square area. So to feel a need to, at this time, to consider it urgent, to put that amount of money. Let me give you a comparison. There's $2 million, not 24, not 200, $2 million. Here what this is allocated for. $2 million is allocated to support Project Restore. What is Project Restore? According to the budget, a community-based gang violence intervention program that addresses barriers to personal growth, including economic insecurity, disconnection from education, unemployment, and a lack of role models, and unheralded trauma. Now that's a mouthful, that's a lot, that's a big mandate, that's a lot of things. And of course, you read between the lines, you realize that's talking about our youths. It has to be able to reach out to the youths. Disconnection from education.
2 million. They got 2 million.
A pittance. 2 million compared to 400 million. So when I already said that, and I looked through most of this budget, I didn't see Harlem mentioned once.
Nothing.
So, okay, so let's assume this is going to address, because our youth, because we have a situation where many of our youths are involved in gang and gun violence. But let's look at another item. The law enforcement items always involve our youth, because Black youths are considered the biggest criminal justice problem in the city, even though they're not. Now, it said 12.1 million for district attorneys. For district attorneys, 12.1 million to support creative work addressing gangs, youths, and domestic violence, as well as forensic analysis to support legal proceedings. There's also around the same amount of money for funding for multiple criminal justice initiatives to increase the number of justice-involved supportive housing unit. Read that to mean halfway houses for people who coming out of jail. Okay? Alternatives to incarceration and electronic monitoring. Read that to mean people coming out of jail. And we know that the jail is just overpacked with Black and with Black people, Black men and brown men. So wherever it involves Black and brown, that money is dealing with, is wrapped up in the criminal justice or law enforcement affairs, matters, right? Or it's just a pittance like the 2 million for the programs. You're an educator, Dr. Selma, a lifelong educator. You run a company that advises schools, helps schools solve problems in their curriculums and develop programs and so on. What do you think $2 million is in order to have outreach to youngsters, counseling for youngsters, get them into education situations? Do you think 2 million is a lot of money, even compared to the 12 million for district attorneys?
Well, how I would tell people is you have a school system with over 1.1 million children. So basically you just gave $1 to every child, right? So that's how you could think about it in terms of the mathematics. And when they do things like this, at the end of the day, it's also who gets funded. And people don't realize, as we were talking about, the importance of Black businesses, that the businesses who are doing the work, the businesses who are really committed to community, the money is not touching them, because to own a business, you have to build, right? You have to build your team, you have to do the marketing, you have to do all of those back end things. So I don't know what $2.1 million will do. And also, as we look at the different programs that they have, the money is always going to those same companies out the door. And it just says that the priority, like we're screaming and we're in such pain. Our children are in pain. And we're in pain as adults financially. And so to now take the money that we are being heavily taxed on, I want to keep saying that. The Roosevelt Institute released a study a few months ago that talked about that Black people pay more taxes in this country than anybody else. So we're heavily taxed. We're feeling the anxiety of not being able to have opportunity. And then you literally go and give $400 million to restore Fifth Avenue, to build up Fifth Avenue. It says that your priorities are not the people. It's not the outer boroughs. The streets are filthy. And we're going to have to now really create space. And I thank Harlem Network News for making the space to have this important educational conversation to get people informed, because I don't think most of the time it's just something that's announced and the media does not do a good job of it. It's just announced, oh, you have a budget. And yes, I was on the mayoral campaign, but a lot of the other candidates didn't want to talk about the budget, didn't want to talk about the money. And so for them to now be able to now literally city council members to vote on this and to agree on this, it's what I'm saying, that there's a lot of backroom deals being made and we don't know about it. We still won't know where this $400 million will go. Where would it go? Where will this $400 million go to? What companies? Where are the RFPs? Who gets to respond? And then oftentimes, even when you have a company and you think, I want to get access to this $400 million, we don't get the opportunity because the RFPs and those things have already been designed in such a way that the same companies get it. So it is extremely alarming to me. It's hurtful. It's a hurtful budget. It really is. When I saw this, I was in pain. I was in pain when I saw it. Yeah.
I want to show you. Yeah, go right ahead, Terry.
No, I was just going to say, this is Harlem Network News. We're talking about the New York City budget. I'm Terry Wisdom. I'm here with Dr. Selma Barthomew. And I'm also here with Brother Isaac Fergusson of WBAi. We're speaking about the budget. One of the items that was raised was the $400 million. But I think it's really important. I accessed the budget as much as I could. I'm not seeing everything that you're seeing, Brother Isaac, in terms of the budget. And I think it's really important because the point is that we, the middle and the lower class people of this city, pay more taxes than anybody does. And I adhere to what Dr. Selma Barthomew was saying, that, you know, you go through the camera lights or whatever it is, you know, you're driving 25 miles or 26 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket. Now you go through, you know, the downtown area. That's another thing. If you don't have the bank account attached to it, you're going to be charged more. It's mostly the poorer people, the Black and brown people that don't have that attached to their car. And then you may be towed, you may be booted, you know, and so this is stressful. This is financial abuse, because those that have money are not worrying about whatever they got to pay because they can pay.
Well,
So
unfortunately, so much of law enforcement is conflated with revenue generation. Every time instead of talking about safety, whenever they put in new traffic laws, they're always quick to mention it's going to raise $15 billion for the MTA. So people don't focus on what the point is or what's important, which is transportation safety, reducing the traffic deaths, bringing in proper regulation for the bicycles and things like that, which is true dangerous to people. Because what's put out in your face, first and foremost, is how much money can be made, taken from the motorists, from the people trying to get up, to put into something else. So these are the things that we have. And this is, again, the reason why people are disheartened with both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They're disheartened with the political leadership. The young people are hungering for something new, something different. Let me show you something else here in this budget.
Thank you. Yeah.
$2 million to establish the LGBTQ plus emergency fund to help LGBTQ plus organizations and providers that are negatively affected by the federal funding cuts. That's $2 million. Again,
2.5. Yes.
They have enormous amount of problem in the gay community, especially with transvestite suicide.
Yes.
Suicide prevention has to be given so many teenagers, when they come into that point in their life where they begin to be aware of themselves as sexual beings, their hormones begin to really flow, they're 14, 15, 16 coming up. And they have sexual problems or sexual issues. So there's this nonsense going on, this disinformation that people want to be transvestites and so on because they see that on social media, and social media, parents allowing them to watch social media. And so people are choosing to change their sex on that. I mean, this is such a traumatic situation and so difficult to exist with through high school and through life on your through jobs and all that. That who in the right sense is going to choose that? People don't choose these things. On the whole, I mean, I'm not saying there might be one or two people that choose that, but the majority of these folks have genuine medical problems. And it should be treated as a medical issue, not as a political issue or religious issue. So $2 million to address those situations for the organizations trying to deal with that, again, it's like lunch money. So when you understand the size of the problem, and you have some idea what it's going to take to tackle it, counselors, offices, places where the people can be brought in for counseling, medical treatment, and all of that, $2 million make you shrug. So what are they doing?
And I think the priorities are off, right? I think even how he's decided to, He's given money for, yes, legal services for migrants.
41 million.
And we know that they are part of the community, right? I'm a newcomer as well, so I understand. But there's so many other issues in terms of domestic violence. There's housing court. There's this real, right?
Criminal
There's
court.
bottleneck, criminal court. And like I said, really funding the organizations doing the work, and partnering with those city agencies. And so it definitely demonstrates to me a lack of understanding, and you're just putting a drop in the bucket rather than fundamentally saying, let's now go and address these problems across the board, and which definitely says that their priorities and who they belong to. And I want to go back to people. At the end of the day, when you look at a line item, you have to ask, right? Is it for an agency? Is it for a particular city agency that you're going to get something? Is it for an organization? And how did they get to be on a line item, right? And is it for businesses? And when you look at the items, most of the money is going towards contracting businesses. And it's the organizations.
So I think that it's really it's extremely important that we're having this conversation, and it's after the fact that the budget is passed. But I think we really have to have some forums with our city council people, with our current mayor, to really get a clear understanding. I mean, I'm pulling stuff offline. I don't have the line by line budget, but it's unclear. And this is our money, so it should not be unclear. I'm looking at something here, highlights of the council priorities. FYI, 2026 budget. I'm looking at ACS child vouchers, $423.4 million to secure 350 million in state funding. I'm looking at preschool special education, 125 million. I'm looking at 3K pre-K restoration, 112 million. So I'm looking at these items, but as you said, Dr. Selma, how are they going to be dispersed?
Who's going to get the money?
Who's going to get the money? Because at the end of the day, this is our money. And just like you watch your bank account online, this is our bank account. This is what we paid into. Where is our money going? Right to council. I see $15.6 million to support civil attorneys. Summer youth, I see $11 million. Shelter and housing action, $10 million. Adult literacy, $8 million. Trans equity, $6.5 million. Minority-owned business accelerator, $1 million. Veteran Resources Center, $540 million. Guaranteed Income Program, $3 million. Low-wage worker support, $2.2 million. Runaway and homeless, $3.2 million. LGBT youth housing support services, $5 million. Empowering Black communities, $1 million. Estate planning and legal services, $2 million. So I'm seeing these numbers. I don't really know what are these numbers meaning. What are they translating to? But I'm seeing very few Operation Backpack, 200. Well, that's 250,000. But I'm saying I didn't get to the $400 million, but those are the bigger numbers of stuff in places. So I think that we seriously have to do a deep dive on this budget, and we probably need to. I will reach out to our chair, Adrienne Adams, again. She has come on Network News. I know that our council member, Gail Brewer, who has been on here many times in the past, knows a lot about this budget, and was on that budget committee. But we need to really understand what's happening, because as I'm sitting here and just as we're talking about it, this is our bank account. Like you watch your money in the bank and if somebody took it, or there was fraud, or you're just looking at what did I spend. This is our bank account. I know that a single person in New York City is paying 39% of their salary in taxes if they're making under 75,000. If they get to the 75,000, then they are paying almost 49%. And in terms of some balances, they're thinking that you're kind of on the poverty level and you could get a hardship if you got to pay parking tickets if you make under 86,000. So that tells you something if what it costs to live here and what we're dealing with. So I think that we can't be silent on this. We're going to have to take some deep dives, some looks, and hold these people accountable.
And people have to do it consistently too. I know that there's so much impact in, I didn't mean to cut you off, Brother Ferguson. I think there's so much impact that we often don't get a chance to consistently look at something. And we also don't realize that because we're so financially stressed, right? That we oftentimes can't stay in a conversation. So yes, I own a business. I've worked so hard to support other businesses and to really share the knowledge that I have. But what often happens is because we always in this like, oh my God, I'm drowning mode, right? It's very hard to stay with something. And as a result, this is how they get away with, right? No transparency. There's also a lot of ways in which they could present something these days. And so they just quickly list things, right? And unless you know how to go and do a deeper dive. So I feel like if it's very intentional, that to not have transparency and to not be able, because then when there's transparency, then people can be accountable, right? So when news reports on the budget, they're not going to tell people they just gave $400 million to Fifth Avenue. Anybody who's a New Yorker knows Fifth Avenue, at the end of the day, I'm not saying sooner or later you don't need a restoration. But anybody who's a New Yorker in any borough who's struggling out here, who sees the filthy streets, every other day there's an issue around gun violence. You drive in any neighborhood, 6 o'clock at night, you just see our young people with nothing to do. Anybody who is in New York, who cares about New Yorkers, can look at that and should be like, oh my God, like what happened here, right? But because somebody lobbied, and they know that businesses, $400 million just went into the pocket of businesses, most likely white men who own those construction companies and who own those there's not us. And
there's one of the things that I thought was good, and even though I didn't understand it, again, it has a nice name, Ask the Tax Plan. It's called the Ask the Tax Plan.
Okay, let's get into that.
Okay, what is that, please? Thank you.
Yes.
It abolishes New York City personal income tax for low-income filers up to, well, they say 150%.
Of the poverty line. So who does that include? That doesn't include most of us.
Well, it's hard for me to...
No. I'm trying, if you could, because these things are very complicated.
Very complicated.
And I know that they have, that they're abolishing, because I remember Mayor Adams said that some time ago, and it actually came through, that they're abolishing the city tax.
Right.
For people under a certain income. Do you know what
personal
that
income? Well, I don't know because they say
150% below the poverty line. So that means
something like that.
20,000.
It's supposed to put back 63 million back into the pockets of 582,000 tax filers. But I mean, I really, generally, I think I'm a fairly informed guy who can figure out some of these legalese, these statements. But the 150% throws me for a loop, because then you have to ask, how do they arrive at the poverty line? We know people in the Bronx, the median income in the Bronx is probably like in the 40s. I think it's $46,000, and the feds have a way of assessing that. But then 46,000 is a lot for many people here. Many people here are really, really making far less than that.
Yeah.
You see, so how do they arrive at that figure to know that this is going to put back $63 million back in the pockets of 582,000 people? And I'm curious. I mean, I like it. It sounds good.
Yeah.
I don't think it impacts I don't think it impacts us in terms of where that poverty line sits under, whether you make under 30,000 or under 23,000. And it's 150%, like the mathematics of that, right? It sounds so sexy.
Right.
Oh my gosh, right? But what I mean also about transparency, they're not saying how many people are at the line. They're not saying how many people, as you mentioned, in terms of that average income and who really needed the relief at the end of the day, right?
Right.
And so it's just a lack of.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah, there's
consistent
a lot to unpack. I
transparency.
mean,
A lot.
um,
When you get a copy of the budget as a journalist, you're scratching your head. I mean, look at this. One of the things that showed me I didn't like, maybe I'm wrong not to like it. It says 6 million funding to help business improvement districts purchase sanitary bins
Exactly.
to assist in the mayor's war on rats.
To purchase those
Yeah, yeah.
bins,
People in the
not to
business
clean the street, but to
in
purchase
business
bins.
improvement
And who owns
districts.
the bins? Who
No, they
owns
don't.
the bins?
Where I live in Sean, they go around, and if you don't have the bin as a homeowner, you might be struggling to pay your mortgage. You might be poor.
Yes.
You get a ticket. They give you a fine, and if you don't pay it soon, the costs go up. If you don't have the new bins that the city require,
right,
they're not
yes,
giving
yes.
homeowners money
So
to.
there's a
But
lot,
then,
and
but here's the contracting piece. Who owns the company that makes the bins? We do not
Maybe
own
somebody
those
with good
companies. So
lobbyists.
$6 million just went into somebody else's pocket on our back. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people have to look at it and say, wait a minute, who's the business owner behind this, right? That you just gave $6.5 million to a company that makes bins.
So I'm confused whether I should like that. I should, I should salute that 6 million spending, or I should be angry about it. I don't. I don't
right.
know.
I mean, I think that you know, we're going to this is Harlem Network News. I'm Terry Wisdom, and we are here unpacking as journalists, as public officials, as candidates, the budget that just came out. And I think what we're seeing from this budget discussion is that we've got to really continue on this, and we've got to really ask for accountability. This is a lot of money. It's more money than most of us have, but this is in fact our bank account, our public bank account. I'm looking at something that says lot cleaning and restoration, $820,000 baseline fund dedicated to personal avoid vacant lots from becoming neglected. So there's a lot of issues that are here, but we've got to look at it. How is it all being dispersed? How does it impact us? And once again, not from a racist standpoint,
Right.
but basically, if Blacks have a great disparity from the income of whites, then
Right.
we're not talking race, we're talking reality. And so we've got to look at how is this impacting Black people? How is it impacting brown people? How is this impacting the have-nots? How can the have-nots be able to raise up? Because the have-nots are paying the taxes, and we could take it further even into what is happening right now with our federal government, and they're all intertwined, you know, where they're trying to take away Medicaid, they're trying to take away this, take away that, and put more money into the pockets of these wealthy people, but it's our money that they're putting into the pockets. So we got to be clear on what's happening. We are overwhelmed, as Dr. Selma said, you know, so it's hard to unpack all of this, you know, given the fact that we're trying to figure out how to have groceries or how to have the children get a great education. But we've got to hold these people to task on everything. We have to.
The thing is that none of us get paid to spend days and days down at the city council, down at City Hall. So we may be able to, you may be able to go down there for a day or two, maybe if they have a press conference or you just want to sit in on one of their meetings. But we have to earn a living and can't be down there while they go through the weeks and weeks of this budget. Our city councilors, or mayor, of course, they get paid to do that. That's their job. So they spend the time. And we depend on them to make these decisions and then give us a copy of this budget. We don't get a copy before they pass it.
Right.
We get a copy after it is passed, and this is law. And when you, for example, I see $41.9 million for programs for legal services for immigrants, including representation for those facing deportation and assistance with applications for various immigration benefits. Now, that sounds very good. We're in a city of immigrants and we see the pressure and the enormous stress and the pain that immigrants are going through. But then we see that many of the immigrants now that already have their applications and so on, when they show up at the immigration department or the courts for those hearings, the minute the judge says this or that, they're being grabbed outside the court by ICE and dragged away. Are there lawyers waiting to help them? Are there people waiting to intervene? And if people do that, won't Donald Trump have these people arrested? So how is that money? Is that money going to go to non-for-profits? Who's going to get this money to help these people? And if this money is spent by New York, will New York lose their funds, all kinds of funds, and be punished in all kinds of ways by the federal government? So these days, you have to be looking all around because there's so much happening that's out of the normal.
Right. And the people that are here and have been here need help, need a lot of help.
They do need help.
Support. They need this, they need that, you know, and I'm just saying that's no shade or lack of empathy for the immigrants, but we have to keep it real in terms of what is happening for those who have been here trying to work, trying to survive, living in housing projects. You know, these are things. So, I mean, I'm glad that we're having this conversation.
You may not be able to say, but I'll say it. $41 million, you call ICE and you welcomed ICE into the city and now put that pressure. And now you just gave $41 million for legal services. You're not the attorneys, people. Who owns these law firms? Who own these nonprofit organizations at the end of the day? And when we look at the court situation across every single borough, domestic violence, housing and eviction, right? Criminal court, where those monies and those alleviate. And I would rather you give money to organizations helping newcomers, right? Not just, oh, I'm just putting money towards quote unquote legal services.
Legal services.
So it says that the priorities are not the priorities necessarily of New Yorkers. And the fact that we are not being well cared for in the city, we're not being cared for, and they're not listening. That's the other thing. Like at the end of the day, I am disturbed. I think people don't realize, you're right, that the fact that we don't see the budget before it's passed tells us that there's a level of, that there is definitely a lack of transparency, because if they put it out before they pass on it, people would step up and say, no, wait a minute, you can't do this, right? So they're making these deals behind the scene. Organizations are lobbying them. People are lobbying them to say, put this line item in there. And we fundamentally also don't, on the education piece, I know that people don't feel comfortable with mathematics. We don't feel comfortable with policy. And there's also a sense of just, you know, I'm feeling so overwhelmed and I just cannot give any more energy to this, but we now have to. This is a year of exposure, and we now have to say to people that I don't think people even realize, I have to be honest, I don't think people realize that it's their tax dollars that's going to the budget. I don't think that
we're kind of disconnected and they're just taking from us. So
I don't think that they realize when they're punishing people. They're thinking, like, it's your money that's going back to you. And so, you know, and I'm going to point again with the tickets. They're making over $500 million plus on parking tickets and red light cameras alone. And
now they got cameras on the bus. They got cameras on the bus.
Everywhere.
And so you're going to get a ticket if you're in the bus. So it's a lot to unpack. And I would say the only thing that Donald Trump said that I'm in agreement with, stop the congestion pricing. Because the people, I was wishing that would happen, because the people that are suffering from the congestion pricing are the working people, okay, who can't afford it. But what I would like to do, we're gonna kind of close out on this budget, but what commitment can we make to really unpack this budget, figure out what's going on, and let people know what's going on? So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Selma Barthomew. What commitment or what do you believe we can do to address this matter?
I think we're doing exactly what Harlem Network News is designed to do, that we have to first educate people, inform them. And I've also made a commitment to figure out the organization piece as a result of not being a candidate, but also just doing the work in my community. I know that information and also organization, that we do a lot of events, especially in the Black and Brown community. We have a lot of, celebrations, which are great, but we fundamentally have not had the opportunity to really sit together as a coalition and say, what is the current state? What is the current state? And what is the strategic plan in order to address this? And I do not believe, I can say this on my own person, I do not believe that that plan will come from the Democratic Party, because I don't think that that's their purpose. I get the sense that their purpose is about power and controlling, right? And not necessarily making it a space where emerging candidates like myself and where the voice of the people are fundamentally being heard. So this is something that must be done by individuals who care about the city, who care about our country, and also who want a plan. People talk about the 2050. Well, where's their plan? How do we now put a strategic plan around the money and educating people around the fact that the dollars make a difference, that this system has been around policy and the mathematics that is being used against us to really keep us in this mode of what I call revenue apartheid. It is revenue apartheid that I am experiencing as a Black-owned business. I do not get the same opportunity as other businesses, no matter how smart I am, no matter how talented I am, no matter how much I write RFPs. At the end of the day, that the system really is not designed to create that opportunity. So what I would like to do is to continue to educate, to continue to support Harlem Network News, WBAi, and voices and spaces where we can have authentic conversation without being regulated. And so I thank you. I thank you for the space, and I think that's what we must continue to do.
Absolutely. And I'm encouraged and I'm inspired. And despite, because there's a pushback, the Jamal Bowman, who lost the race because big monies came in, really spoke about something in terms of the stress of Black people. And, he put it in the sense of if you were called the N-word, but the whole system really causes a great deal of stress, a great deal of anxiety, a great deal of having to dig deep for self-confidence to stand up against people who are saying to you by their actions that you don't matter, that you're not a part, but you got to stand in a way.
Right.
Tubman and, Marcus Garvey, everybody stood. We got to stand. Yes.
Right.
So closing, Brother Isaac Fergusson, thank you.
Well, in terms of what we must do, as Dr. Selma said, our job as journalists and as broadcasters is to inform people and stimulate discussion. We have to inform people so that they be prepared to take action, because in the sort of a constitutional democratic society that we're in, the way people access power is through two things: the census and voting. The census is critically important because the census translates into how much representation we're going to get at the federal governmental level. And the census translates into how much money will be sent back to our city. The cities send the money to the federal government, and it's redistributed according to needs and numbers of people. So we're doing our job, which is to inform and stimulate discussion, not necessarily to take sides. As a matter of fact, as journalists and broadcasters, we try to avoid taking sides because our job is to analyze and allow people the freedom to choose. But I covered a lot of the demonstrations downtown over the past 3 months concerning the cuts coming up to Medicaid, Medicare, and possibly Social Security. These giant $1 trillion cuts, which is the largest cuts to the health and nutrition safety nets in the history of those programs. And what I noticed is that the vast majority of people there were white people. There were very few Black people in those rallies and demonstrations. I walked the length of it. I'm on Madison Avenue watching the parade go by. I walked all the way down to 23rd. I go all the way up with them to 59th Street and Central Park West. I try to get there when it starts, and I leave when it's over.
Okay.
And I'm looking for my people. And very few Black people are involved. we tend to think that's about the man. Let them fight their own war. That's not our fight. Because we have this distrust of getting in there and distrust of authority. And it translates possibly into lethargy. I don't know. But if you don't vote, somebody else votes for you, because the person who votes will then choose the government who will make all these important decisions that affect your life. So we have a situation where, and Black people may complain a lot, but they have to organize. They have to get out there and get involved. And I mean, look at what happened with Elon Musk. People literally chased him out of town. All across this country, the millions and millions of people that were holding up signs. There were as many signs in those rallies that were making statements against Medicaid and against what Donald Trump was doing. But in the early weeks of those parades, most of those signs were against Elon Musk.
Interesting.
Get your hands out of our government. Elon Musk took his doggy to work, and people said, well, you can't bring your pets into the office. And he said, well, it's a service dog. I mean, he took it to the supermarket.
Right,
and people
right.
said, you can't bring your doggy into the supermarket. And he says, well, this is my service dog. I take it wherever I go. And people say, well, you're causing the owners to put up the goods so high we can't reach it. So, but then, beyond all joke, what happened here was that those rallies across the country had impact. They had even impact on Donald Trump and his MAGA people who like to act like they're impervious. But the real power here, the executive branch has power, the presidency. The Supreme Court has power, although the Supreme Court and the Congress and House of Representatives on the Republican side has sort of yielded all their power to the presidency. They want the executive branch to have all the power. And so there's no checks and balances. But the people has power, because at the ending of the day, the vote counts. The vote is what puts people into office. It's what gives these people jobs or take away. Money is enormously important also now, because the money is used to influence how people think and how people behave. But our people have got to get more involved. They can't remain disconnected. They can't stay outside and let all the white people and some of the Indians and some of the Asians and some Latinos who are marching, who are standing in the rain on Fifth Avenue. In the rain, and some of those days were rainy, there were just thousands and thousands of umbrellas. And this was replicated in, 150 cities around the country? Black people were few and far between. And that was sort of a disheartening to me. It makes me work even harder on WBAi.
We have to work hard. Thank you for sharing that. And we can say, okay, we know why, because people are overwhelmed, because people are depressed, because people are a lot of things. But it's kind of like whatever those things we are right now, we have to stand. We have
to get up and take action.
It is on our mind as we sleep. It is on our mind as we eat. You know, how can we? Is there enough hours in a day? Those are the thoughts that are for me. But we must continue to stand. And we basically could say, okay, we built for this. You know, look what we've gone through and we're still here. So, you know, we've got to get involved. We've got to get engaged. We've got to hold people accountable. And we've got to understand that this is our bank account. It's our public bank account.
Oh, yes.
So these people, public officials, they got to be accountable to us. And they're not going to be unless we put the pressure on. And even those coming into office are thinking, oh, this is how it is. They're trying to figure it out too. You know what I'm saying? But it's not that. It's real, because it is translating to reality for us in terms of our children, in terms of our ability to get food, in terms of our mental health, in terms of stress. You know, this is on us every day. So we have to. We don't have an option. And, you know, I don't know the exact quote, but as our Marcus Garvey said, listen, the circumstances are what are going to generate what you're going to do. And right now is good. We got those circumstances, so we have to push back.
Before I leave, I want to remind people to please check out WBAi 99.5 FM.
Absolutely.
And go online on your phone. You could get WBAi.org anywhere you are. You can get WBAi because we're broadcasting also on the internet. And this is the last community radio out there. Every other radio is under threat because they depend on government grants and subsidies or commercial advertising. And only the right-wing commercial radio stations are well subscribed by the corporations. They get a lot of money. They can pay $30-40 million to their people, to their broadcasters and so on. Organizations like yours, the Harlem Network News, and like the one I'm involved with, WBAi 99.5 FM and WBAi.org. Fortunately for WBAi, they've been able to stay there from 1964 to the present and do the work of producing a microphone free to the public for the public comment and public broadcasting. We open the phones. We deal with feedback. The public is welcome to call in on every single show, and that's important. So, Harlem Network News, WBAi, these are lone voices out there in the wilderness, and both of them need public support. So please don't forget that, listeners.
Absolutely.
And viewers.
Donate to Harlem Network News. We need your dollars, and we have freedom of speech because we're not funded, because we're not accountable, and we have to take that. But it's important. You cannot do this without money. You can't. You can, but you can't do the vast job. And even understanding the dynamics of advertising. And I, speak about Roland Martin, who's like, bring your eyeballs here to us. It makes a difference because there are like stations or movie channels like Tubi. Fox owns Tubi, even though they're doing a lot of Black programming. And every time you watch Tubi, you're making them money. They're getting the advertising dollars, and a Harlem Network News won't get it because we don't have your eyes. So it's something to look at. Even with BET owned, those are no longer Black owned. We're watching those thinking, oh, that's us. And then people once again are making money off our backs. So we got to get that basic course in economics. And Brother Isaac, can you just tell people when your show airs for Harlem Network News? Right now we're on YouTube, and we consistently do our Sunday shows, but we do as many shows as we can.
Right.
We're looking at doing a documentary with youth. I'm going to tap into some of these organizations. That's what we're looking to do this summer, to highlight gun violence, some of the civic things. We need help and support in terms of getting that done, but we're committed to getting that done. So when can they tune into your show?
WBAi 99.5 FM and WBAi.org. And my show in particular is Sundays, Caribbean Voices and Beyond, which is Sundays, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. What's Going On, the morning show, Tuesdays, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And the award-winning Midnight Raver show, which I've done for close to 20 years now on WBAi. Right. And that is Friday nights, midnight Friday night to 2 a.m. Saturday morning. Every Friday night, midnight to 2 a.m. And we do everything on that show: music, history, politics, edutainment. So that's Friday nights, the award-winning Midnight Raver show, for which I'm the historian and writer and co-host for, well, exactly 18 years now.
Wow. Okay.
On WBAi 99.5 FM.
Lots of skin game. We salute you.
Yeah, WBAi.org.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
It's
and
my
Dr.
pleasure.
Selma,
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Dr. Selma, this is the beginning of a lot of great collaborating. Dr. Selma, how can folks get in touch with you, and what programs are you working on? And we're going to sign on. Go right ahead.
Well, I'm actually partnering with an organization called Community for a Cause, and I definitely would love it if he has a chance to talk with you more. A gentleman by the name of Chris Lake. And when we saw this budget and realized that it really didn't touch our children, we're going to try to do an emergency call to action to ask people to go do a GoFundMe where we can take 1,000 youth off the street and to give them opportunities. So please expect some things like that. You can find me posted on all of my social media, Dr. Selma B, Dr. Selma B, the number 4, and then you, for you, on my TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and then also my work in the education space and in the business space continues as I continue to be an advocate for our children, for our families. And, you know, for me with this mayoral race, you know, it was a fight against the Goliath money, but also a sense of apathy. And I see this as an arena and a space that I look forward to continuing in, because we don't realize how much the politics is really playing out in our lives. And so if we continue to hurt, we have to now go after the solutions. And the solutions really is about, let's go to our elected officials, let's hold people accountable, because the trust is already broken. And let's really address this. And so look forward to being an advocate and to really speaking truth and being able to provide people the information, but also the solutions that they need in order to really transform community. And I thank you again. I thank you again, Ms. Wisdom. I thank you for just continuing to do the work, as Maya Angelou says. I wish you the word continue, because I know it's not easy. I know that it is not easy to continue to show up for others as you've been showing up. And I thank you for that.
Okay, well, I'm inspired, and I get the wind from the people and the need, and that it's not me. And, you know, even when you're getting resistance and you're not getting the support, I know that it's not about me. So I keep going. I keep going. And I'm grateful that I'm able to keep going. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is Harlem Network.
Thank you.
And to be continued, reach out to us at harlemnetworknews.com, harlemnetworknews@gmail.com, as well as you can reach us directly if you have information, shows, news. We welcome you. And if you want to get involved, we welcome you. Like I said, we're looking to do a documentary with some youth this summer right here in Harlem. You'll hear more about it. And you can reach us directly at 646-261-5397. Thank you. Have a great day. Let's not take this 4th of July time for granted. This is our time, freedom. So thank you. Forward ever, backward never. So goes Harlem, so goes the world. Up you mighty race. Let's go. Thank you. Okay. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.